Beloved, it's a privilege once again to come your way to bring you the second segment of this broadcast, Rivers of Life broadcast. I believe you are following the teaching. I just want to bring such an inspiration to us, bring us to speed on what God is doing and what we are supposed to do to prepare ourselves or be attuned with His move in this our last days. Yes, in the previous broadcast we spoke about Noah, a man who found favor with the Lord when the Lord decided that all creation has become detestable in His sight, and it had repented actually Him to create humanity. And Noah found favor, and so God tasked Noah to bring every animal on board the ark. And we've taken a look at what the ark means, what it symbolizes, the significance and importance of the ark. And we said the church could also be attributed to be a form of ark because it has the same function, same way of operation. And therefore, I may say the church is the last ark. And I'm speaking to us under the topic, will your ark float? Will your ark float? Will your ark suspend? Will your ark be able to stand the test of time? This is what I'm sharing with us. And by continuation, we go to Psalm 50, verse number 2. Bible says, at the gates of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God has shone forth. God has already shone forth at the gates of Zion. That is the church, the perfection of beauty. That means it's a process. God is perfecting beauty in His saints. And Bible says He has already shone forth. How did He shine forth? In the book of Isaiah 61, 2 and 3, we are told that we should arise and shine. For our light has come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon us. Why? Because there's a day of gloominess, a day of darkness. Gross darkness the people. There's going to be a total darkness upon the face of the earth. But the church stands tall in the midst of all this. Bible says this day will overshadow people. But Bible says at the gates of Zion, at the door of Zion, the perfection of beauty. It's of no surprise to me at all when David saw this from afar, and he says, I prefer to be a gate man in the house of the Lord than to be elsewhere, or a day in your presence is better than 1,000 elsewhere. David knew what Zion stood for, and I believe in our contemporary times also we must also understand somehow the meaning of Zion. And so Bible says God tasks Noah to bring every animal in pairs for preservation in the ark or the boat that He asked him to prepare. Same Psalm 50 verse 5, Bible says, gather unto me my saints, those who have made covenant by sacrifice with me. And so the church is gathering the saints of God, and that is the mandate of the church. The primary responsibility is to gather souls. Bible says He has made us fishers of men. We bring people what we have been tasked to do, exactly like Noah did in his time. Now we see when the flood came in from verse chapter number 8 of Genesis. Let's read and then we can do some expatiations here. Verse 8, chapter 8 from verse 1. Bible says, and the Lord remembered Noah and every living thing and the cattle that was with him in the ark. And God made the wind to pass over the earth and the waters assuage. Verse 2, and the fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained, and the waters returned from off the earth continually, or receded. And after the end of 150 days, the waters were abated. Verse 4, and the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 7th day of the month, upon the Mount Ararat. And the waters were decreased continually until the 10th month, and in the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. And it came to pass, that is verse number 6, at the end of the 40 days, that the Lord opened the windows of the ark which He had made. Verse 7, and He sent forth a raven which went forth to and fro until the waters were dried up from the face of the earth. Now, the Bible says in in the seventh month, on the seventh day of the month, upon the Mount Ararat, the ark rested. The word Ararat simply means rest. And this Mount Ararat is found in Turkey, in a place called Ephesus or Izmir now. Now you find it there, and I believe in recent times the remains of the ark of Noah has been found there. Some fossils that point to the ark. But here we are, Bible says it rested upon that mount on the seventh month of the year. Seven connotes perfection. There is a perfect plan that God has for the church, and if we find ourselves in the saving device or saving mechanism of God, that is the church, I believe in the seventh month our ark will rest in the rest of God. Because if you study the history of humanity, we are in the 600 generation. The seventh, we are about getting to the close of the 7,000 agenda of God, and I believe God is about to bring us to a rest, a place that we enter into eternity with Him and have an eternal rest with Him. And so, looking at it from this concept, I believe it is communicating something to us in our time. God is doing something wonderful. The Bible says He brought on board all kinds of animals with different character dispositions. All were found on board. And listen, beloved, I'm surprised. They were disciplined. Why? Because on board, God was in charge. Also in the church, God is in charge, and His word goes forth and calms down every temperament. And all of us can find some respite and find some security under the wings of God. It's very, very important. Each and every one of us must think about our tomorrow, our safety, our security is very, very paramount. And if we are found in Christ, Bible says, in whom we live, move, and have our being. Our lives are secured, and I believe God or Christ is our security. Bible says Christ in us is our hope of glory. The hope that you and I have is Christ. Some of us have become so familiar with the things of God or Christ, or probably we ridicule the things of God. But listen, that doesn't change the agenda of God. Whatever will come on the planet Earth, those who are in Christ, those who are in covenant with God, they are the ones who will be preserved unto the end. And I want to encourage you, I want to bring your mind back to this, that the church is a place of security, not only for now, but for eternity. And also, probably I need to let you know, it's the first step to all that God wants to do. The church is just first step. So if we miss the church, all that God has destined for us in eternity, we miss the whole show. It's my prayer that none of us will take the church for granted, that what God has promised, He is faithful to do it. If you read the book of Psalms 91, it's the psalm of security. And all that God has purpose and plan for our security is in there. We don't need to be despaired. We don't need to get frustrated or probably agitated because of what is happening. God has promised us, and there's a greater promise out there.